Have you ever woken up and thought to yourself, why does everything feel a little harder than it used to? Maybe your joints ache before you even leave the bed, or the energy that used to carry you through the day now runs out before lunch. You're not alone. So many good, strong, wise people feel like they're slowing down, and not in the graceful way we all imagined. But what if I told you that growing old doesn't have to mean growing weak? What if many of the things we blame on just getting older are actually caused by a handful of quiet, everyday mistakes that most seniors are making without even realizing it? I've spent years working closely with older adults, and I can tell you this with my whole heart. Your age isn't the problem. The problem is what no one ever taught you to avoid. And the good news is, it's not too late to turn things around. In today's video, we're going to talk about 5 mistakes that are quietly stealing strength, energy, and precious years from millions of people over 60. These aren't dramatic or obvious mistakes. They're silent. They creep in through routine, through good intentions, and they settle into our lives quietly, until one day we wonder how we got so tired, so fragile, so foggy. But here's the truth. Once you shine a light on them, they lose their power. And that's exactly what we're going to do together. Let me introduce you to someone very dear to me, Carolyn. She's 73, a retired high school librarian with a sharp wit and a soft heart. She played the piano, volunteered at her local animal shelter, and kept a garden full of sunflowers and tomatoes. But when she came to see me, she had one concern that weighed heavy on her. She said, "I feel like I'm disappearing, like I'm fading into a weaker version of myself." That broke my heart. But I knew something right away. Carolyn wasn't disappearing. She was just caught in a pattern that could be reversed. So let's walk through the first mistake that nearly stole her strength. Carolyn had what I call the bathroom pharmacy. Her medicine cabinet was lined with bottles, some prescribed, some over the counter. A pill for her blood pressure, another for sleep, one for cholesterol, something for acid reflux, and a few supplements she saw on a commercial. Each one added with care and caution. But together, they were waging a war in her body. This is what we call the medication overload trap. Now let me be clear, many medications are important and life-saving. But once you start taking 5 or more, which is common for most people over 65, the risk of interaction climbs fast. One pill can cancel out another. Another might double the effect of a third. And your body, especially your kidneys and liver, doesn't process these medications the way it used to. That same dose you took at 50 might now make you dizzy, foggy, or even dangerously unstable. That was happening to Carolyn. She kept feeling tired, like a deep-down, bone-weary tired. She'd get lightheaded when standing up, and bruises showed up on her arms for no clear reason. Her daughter, Sarah, thought it was just age. But during a visit to her local pharmacy, a young pharmacist looked at her list and said, "Carolyn, you're on 2 blood thinners and also taking ibuprofen every day for your arthritis. That's a recipe for internal bleeding." That one moment changed everything. Carolyn did something I recommend to every senior watching this. She did a medication review. She brought every bottle, prescriptions, vitamins, supplements into one bag and sat down with her primary care doctor. Together they went through them one by one, asking, "Do I still need this? Is this replacing something else or just adding more?" Within a few months, her list of 12 medications shrank to 6 essential ones. And her energy? It came back. That fog in her brain lifted. The bruises disappeared. She felt like herself again. So if you're watching this and you've got bottles scattered in the bathroom, by the kitchen sink, in your purse, please take this as your sign. Do a full medication review. It could quite literally save your life. Let's take a breath and talk about the second mistake. This one isn't in your medicine cabinet, it's in your pantry. Carolyn was proud of her eating habits. She bought whole grain cereal, low-fat cookies for her afternoon tea, sugar-free drinks to stay guilt-free, and canned soups for easy lunches. Everything looked good on paper. The boxes even had heart check marks and labels like Smart Choice or Light. But what she didn't see were the hidden sugars, chemical additives, and sodium overload quietly damaging her body. This is the invisible inflammation diet, and it's everywhere. We've been trained to believe that if something is low-fat or sugar-free, it must be healthy. But manufacturers add something else to make up for the missing flavor. That sugar-free drink? It may contain artificial sweeteners like aspartame, which have been linked to higher stroke risks. That healthy granola bar? Sometimes more sugar than a frosted donut. And don't get me started on those canned soups. Just one bowl can have over half your daily sodium limit. All of this leads to chronic inflammation. And inflammation is like a slow-burning fire inside your body. It makes your joints ache. It messes with your memory. It stresses your heart and drains your energy. When Carolyn's daughter finally sat her down and looked at the ingredient lists on all those healthy foods, she was stunned. That pantry she thought was helping her age well was actually accelerating the decline. But Carolyn didn't panic. She got proactive. She made one small, smart change at a time. She started following a rule she made up for herself called the 5x5 rule. She only bought foods with 5 ingredients or fewer. She drank 5 full glasses of water before 5 p.m. And she aimed to eat 5 different colors of fruits and veggies each day. Within 3 months, her joint pain eased. Her skin looked clearer. Her doctor said her blood sugar was back in a healthy range, all from tiny, consistent changes in her food and drink choices. So before you buy that next box of crackers or pour yourself a diet soda, pause. Turn the box around. Read the ingredients. If it's a mile long or filled with words you can't pronounce, it's probably not helping you. I want you to remember this. Food is either medicine or poison. Every bite is a message you're sending to your future self. You don't need a trendy diet. You just need real food, simple ingredients, and enough water to keep your body working like the beautiful machine it is. Now that we've started to shine a light on 2 of the biggest mistakes, medication overload and hidden inflammation, let's keep going. Because there's another trap that starts quietly, often after something as small as a fall or a moment of hesitation. It doesn't begin in your body. It begins in your mind. It started with a slip. Not a serious fall, not a broken bone, just a small misstep in Carolyn's kitchen. She tripped over the edge of a rug while reaching for a bowl on the counter. Her elbow was sore for a week, and it scared her more than she wanted to admit. But she didn't tell anyone. She just said to herself, "I need to be more careful." From that moment, something quiet and dangerous began. She stopped walking down the steps to her garden. She avoided the sidewalk near the park because it was a little uneven. When her neighbor invited her for a walk through the nature trail, she politely said no. She started to shrink her world, just a little at first. But here's the thing about fear. When it becomes your guide, it starts to take over everything. What Carolyn didn't realize was that she had entered something I call the mobility mindset spiral. It starts with a fear of falling, and that fear convinces you to move less, to stay safe, to sit instead of stand. And that makes perfect sense, until you understand what it's really doing to your body. Because here's the painful truth. The less you move, the more your body forgets how to move. After the age of 50, we naturally start to lose muscle if we're not actively using it. It's called sarcopenia. And if you combine that natural loss with a lifestyle of playing it safe, your strength fades faster than you ever thought possible. Muscles shrink, bones weaken, balance declines. That innocent fall becomes more likely the next time, and the next. She began to notice that it was harder to get up from her couch. Her legs felt shaky when she climbed stairs. One day, her little grandson ran toward her with open arms, and she had to say, "Sorry, sweetie, Grandma can't pick you up today." That moment, she told me, broke her heart more than anything else. Her physical therapist put it in blunt terms. "Carolyn, you have the strength and balance of someone 15 years older than you. But you can reverse this. if you're willing to move again. That was her turning point. She didn't join a fancy gym. She didn't start training for a marathon. What she did was simple, consistent, and brilliant. She called it the power of 3. Every morning, while brushing her teeth, she stood on one foot. Then she switched. At first, she could only hold it for 5 seconds. But every day, she got a little better. During her favorite TV shows, she used the commercial breaks as mini workout sessions. She'd sit and stand from her chair without using her hands, just 10 times. It made her legs burn, but she smiled through it. And before bed, she did 3 gentle stretches. Nothing intense, just a few moments to loosen up her back, her neck, her hips. It became a bedtime ritual that helped her sleep better too. Within weeks, Carolyn felt more confident. Within months, her balance improved. 6 months later, she hiked an easy trail with her grandkids. And the day she picked up her youngest granddaughter and spun her around in the yard, that was her victory. What I want you to know is this: your muscles don't know your age. They only know whether they're being used or not. You can't control how old you are, but you can absolutely control how strong you become. And strength isn't about lifting heavy weights. It's about being able to carry groceries, climb stairs, walk confidently down the street, and pick up your grandbaby with a smile. So if you've had a scare recently, a fall, a near miss, don't let that fear trap you. Start small. Stand more. Move more. Trust your body. It wants to be strong again. You just have to give it the chance. Now, let's talk about a danger that doesn't attack the body first. It attacks the spirit. Carolyn, like many of us, looked forward to retirement. She imagined peace and quiet, no alarm clocks, no rushing. And for the first few months, it felt wonderful. She took her time in the morning. She read the newspaper with her coffee. She enjoyed the stillness. But then the stillness started to stretch. Her bridge group stopped meeting. Her neighbors traveled or moved away. Her children, busy with work and their own families, called when they could. Sometimes days passed where the only voice she heard was the weatherman on TV. And that silence started to feel heavy. She said something to me once that I'll never forget. I talk to my dog more than I talk to people. That's when I knew we had to address what I believe is one of the greatest threats to seniors today: the slow burn of social isolation. It doesn't happen all at once. It creeps in. It's subtle, and it's dangerous. Loneliness isn't just a feeling, it's a health risk. Study after study shows that chronic loneliness raises your risk of early death, heart disease, and even dementia. One landmark study compared the impact of social isolation to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Can you believe that? And it makes sense. When we lose connection, we lose part of what makes us human. Our brains thrive on interaction, our hearts crave companionship. Even small, everyday conversations about the weather, the news, a recipe, those moments matter more than we think. Carolyn's warning signs were subtle. She forgot things more often. She felt more tired, less motivated. Her blood pressure crept up. But the real sign was emotional. She told her daughter, "I feel like I'm disappearing." It wasn't her body giving out. It was her spirit pulling back. But here's the beautiful part of this story. Carolyn didn't need 100 new friends. She just needed a few good connections. She started small, waving at her neighbors instead of just nodding. That turned into short chats. She called an old friend from college just to say hello. She signed up to volunteer 2 hours a week at the front desk of a local nonprofit. And she started something special in her building, a weekly card night with 2 other ladies down the hall. By the 3rd month, there were 12 people showing up for what they now call Tuesday Circle. They bring snacks, share stories, play games, and laugh a lot. Carolyn told me, "It's not about being busy. It's about feeling seen again." If you're watching this and feel like your world has gotten a little too quiet, please don't wait for someone to reach out to you. You be the one to reach out. Call that person you've been thinking about. Ask a neighbor how their day was. Say yes to the invitation, even if you're tired. Human connection is medicine. It heals in ways no pill ever could. You're not alone. You've never been alone. Sometimes all it takes is one voice, one smile, one small step to remind you that you're still part of something bigger. Let's keep going because there's one more mistake we need to talk about. And it's the one that hides in your thoughts, in the stories you tell yourself about getting older. Carolyn sat across from me one afternoon, her hands folded quietly in her lap. She had that faraway look, like her thoughts were drifting somewhere else. And then she said, "I forgot my granddaughter's name yesterday, just for a second, but it scared me so much." That pause, that flicker of panic in her eyes. I've seen it more times than I can count. That fear that the mind is slipping away, that you're not just forgetting a word, but losing pieces of yourself. We've been told all our lives that memory loss is normal as we age. We laugh about senior moments, about walking into a room and forgetting why. But underneath the laughter, there's a quiet fear. What if this is the beginning of the end? And that brings us to the final mistake. One that's so powerful, it can either accelerate your decline or completely change your brain's future. It's what I call the memory myth. Here's the truth that most people don't know. Believing that memory loss is inevitable is what makes it inevitable. See, when we accept the idea that our minds naturally fade after a certain age, we stop challenging them. We stop learning new things. We stop reading deeply, asking questions, trying to remember details. We blame forgetfulness on age and let ourselves slowly check out. But your brain? It's not like a storage closet that fills up over time. It's more like a muscle. And like any muscle, it gets stronger the more you use it. Science has a name for this: neuroplasticity. It means your brain can actually grow, even in your 70s, 80s, and beyond. You can build new connections, improve focus, and even increase the size of areas in your brain that control memory and learning. But only if you believe it's possible and act on that belief. Carolyn's moment of panic, forgetting her granddaughter's name, shook her. She thought, "That's it. My brain is slipping." But her neurologist said something that completely reframed it for her. He said, "Your brain isn't losing power because of age. It's slowing down because it's been underused." That diagnosis hit her like a lightning bolt. And just like she had done with her medication, her diet, and her movement, Carolyn created a new routine, a revival plan for her mind. She called it her brain renaissance. Every morning after breakfast, she spent 15 minutes playing memory games on her tablet. Word puzzles, pattern games, brain teasers. Not because she had to, but because she wanted to give her brain something new to chew on. In the afternoons, she picked one thing to learn, anything. She tried Spanish, just for fun. She started watching piano tutorials on YouTube and practiced simple songs. She even joined a local book club and began reading novels again, something she hadn't done in years. And every day, she went for a walk. Because here's a secret a lot of people don't know. Walking isn't just good for your heart, it's good for your brain. It increases blood flow and stimulates the release of a protein called BDNF, which literally helps your brain grow new cells. 6 months into her brain renaissance, Carolyn's doctor told her something she'll never forget. He said, "Your brain scans look younger. Your hippocampus, the memory center, is stronger than it was last year." She cried, not from fear this time, but from joy, from relief, from pride, because the thing she feared most, losing herself, wasn't inevitable after all. And now, I want to say this to you. Maybe no one has said it clearly before, but let me be the one to tell you. You are not too old to grow. You are not too late to change. You are not stuck. You are not defined by a number or by the mistakes of the past. You are defined by what you choose today. Maybe it's choosing to review your medications. Maybe it's clearing out the processed food in your pantry. Maybe it's standing on one foot while brushing your teeth, or calling a friend you haven't heard from in a while. Maybe it's learning something new, even if it's just one word in another language. Whatever you choose, let it be a step toward life, not away from it. Carolyn didn't reverse the clock. She did something better. She took control. And now, at 75, she feels younger, sharper, and more alive than she did at 65. Not because of luck, not because of perfect genes, but because she stopped believing the lies about aging. She stopped believing she was powerless. I want the same for you. So before we end today, I want you to think about one small change you're willing to make. Not tomorrow, not next week. Today. It could be as simple as drinking a glass of water before your morning coffee, or standing up from your chair without using your hands, or reading the back label on your cereal box, or picking up the phone and saying, "Hey, I've been thinking about you." Whatever it is, write it down. And if you feel comfortable, share it in the comments. It might inspire someone else who's watching, someone who needs that extra nudge to believe again. And if this video gave you something, hope, motivation, or just a feeling of connection, please give it a like. It helps this message reach more people who need it. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more real, uplifting advice from Strong Elderly Life. We're a community. We're in this together. So here's to you, to strength, to clarity, to connection, and to the beautiful truth that it's never too late to live fully. Stay healthy, stay curious, and above all, stay strong. We'll see you next time.